Good morning, CFFers, and welcome to, I guess, a different type of coach talk. This is a topic that we've covered before, but I wanted to dive in one more time to make sure all things are understood. So I'm going to bring up a race plan. This one happens to be for Luke, but it's similar for all you guys. I'm using Luke's because he's using Go Far and Speed for the two Infinite products. That seems to be pretty common. Obviously, you guys could be using fructose, and that would be a little different. But the overall makeup of this spreadsheet that I provide for the race is the same. It'll just have some different details depending on your race feeling. So that's the part I'm going to cover the most today is race feeling. I think everybody's pretty much on board here for how the times work. That's based on your past results and your current state of training. And then as you move over to the right, I have the seconds and watts column in the table. So for the swim, 41 minutes is 124 seconds per 100 yards, which is 2 minutes and 4 seconds per 100 yards. That's 88% of Luke's threshold, so that's safe. The bike, 200 watts, 81% of the threshold safe. If he's having average power versus normalized power, that's the AP versus MP. Whatever he's got displayed on his computer, he can use that number as just a target. Again, these are all just baseline targets of what seems reasonable. You can adjust on the day based on how things are going and what your goals are for the event. I just like to give you a good, relatively safe starting point. And then last but not least, Luke does not have run power, so we do pace. 8.1 minutes per mile gets them to an overall time of 106 minutes, so 146 on the half marathon. And that should get Luke to the finish line at about 5 hours and 26 minutes, give or take, depending on how he performs on the day. So that's an overview of the left side of the chart. The right side gets a little bit more difficult to explain, perhaps, but it's worth talking about. So for Luke, he's going to go to using Go Far, and he's going to do that the standard mix, which is 66 grams of carbs. You can go to the text at the bottom list. Bike goal equals 66 grams of carbs. Plus, he's going to do a little extra water because it should really be quite a warm day in Door County. So I think 30 ounces of water per hour is a smart starting point. And in that standard mix of Go Far, he gets 379 milligrams of sodium. So he's going to do that every hour. He's going to make sure that he gets about 30 ounces of water, and he's going to get 66 grams of the carbs, and he's going to get 375 milligrams of sodium, which is 2 scoops. That's just standard Go Far. The way I like to do this is, as we get into this text, is what I prefer. You can adjust this. But if you got 2 standard bottles on the bike and you got like 2 regular bottles on the frame, they could be Aero, they could be standard. The idea is I would prefer having the Infinite Go Far in the 2 bottles on the frame, and I would mix those strong to get to the carbs he's going to need, which is 187 grams. He needs about 2.8 scoops per bottle. So just less than 3 scoops per bottle. So those are going to be mixed strong. That's all the carbs he needs for the entire race. Okay, so he's got 2 bottles with the energy drink. And then the 2 bottles he keeps up top, maybe he's got 1 behind his seat and 1 in between his arms, or he's got 2 behind his seat. Those are just water. They're easy if you drop one to get from an aid station. Basically we're using that water to dilute all that carb drink, because the carb drink, remember, the 2 bottles on his frame, they're mixed strong. They're at 2.8 scoops per bottle. So every time he takes a drink off of one of his nutrition bottles, he's probably going to wash that down with a few ounces of water. That's what's going to keep the ratio correct. And then you can kind of see how things are going just to watch your bottles. For him, he'd want to have one of his frame bottles done at the halfway point, his nutrition bottles. And then if he's drinking off the water bottles each and every time to dilute, yeah, about 30 ounces, give or take. It's an imperfect science. And then so at the halfway point, that's what I do. I make sure I got one of my nutrition bottles done, and I've been drinking water to wash it down on a continuous basis. Um, and then I move on to the second half, and I just do the same thing. So you could do this differently, right? You could have all 4 bottles with your nutrition. That's fine. And then you just have to figure out how many scoops that means. That would be 1.3 scoops. No, I'm sorry, for him it'd be half of this. So it wouldn't be the 2.8 scoops per bottle if you had 4. It would be 1.4 scoops per bottle. So about a scoop and a half in each bottle if you're going to mix it into the 4 bottles that you have. Maybe you have 3 bottles. So again, you just got to do the math here and figure out how many scoops per bottle. It's pretty straightforward. And when you think about what you're trying to get per hour, you just have to break it down into how many bottles are going to have that energy drink. That's the part that gets to be a little bit challenging. Remember, the basic fuel nutrition, you do not want to go over the recommended hourly allowance that Infinite suggests. That's up in the top here. So go far. You do not want to go over 66 carbs, grams of carbs per 20-ounce bottle. So you need to have at least 20 ounces of water to dilute that 66 grams of carbs. Okay. And to get 66 grams of carbs, it's 2 scoops. Only thing we're doing is if we want to do that in 2 bottles for his 2-hour and 45-minute bike leg, we have to mix them stronger, right? So I'm just trying to give a practical guideline. If you're going to mix it in 2 bottles, it's 2.8 scoops, but you got to be drinking that water on top of it to keep that ratio of water to carbohydrate correct. And then the run is similar. We just back it down. We go from 66 grams of carbs to 50 grams of carbs, and then he's switching to speed. You can't drink the same amount of water typically unless you're doing some walking. So if you're going to try to jog through stations and keep things moving, 20 ounces of water is typically enough unless it's hot. And then he's going to start with the typical 300 milligrams of sodium. That's going to be in that 50 grams of carbs with speed. And he's probably going to figure out how to mix that himself, but I give my suggestions. So I would do speed in 2 flasks. I carry them in my back jersey pockets. They're 12 ounces each. And I would have 1.6 scoops of speed in each of those bottles. That'll give me 3.2 for the run if I was Luke here, and finishing in about 1 hour and 45 minutes. So it's just how you break up those carbs per hour. And here we're not going with the normal speed mix 57. We're actually backing off of that. What most of us have found is when we're running, we just can't do the standard amount of carbs. We tend to have to back that off. And the same thing with the water. We go from what we're trying to do is of 30 ounces on the bike to 20 ounces on the run. The other thing I need to add to this, it's confusing, but it is what it is. If you're a salty sweater, you sweat profusely, you might need more sodium. So what I plan on doing is having some precision hydration sodium tablets. I'm going to have at least one of those mixed in one of my plain water bottles on the bike. And I'm going to drink from that bottle a little bit more often if it's really hot and I'm sweating like crazy. At the run, I'm probably going to bring one of those tablets with me just to make sure that I can get it into one of my flasks, and then have an extra 500 milligrams of sodium if I need it on the run. So that's the big thing. You might need more water, you might need more sodium, but this is a really good starting point. So again, it's breaking down what you need per bottle to get to the target. I think the target's straightforward. It takes a little math after that. But the 66 grams of carbs and 30 ounces of water and 379 milligrams of sodium per hour, that's kind of non-negotiable on the bike. It really should be the right amount unless your stomach starts fighting back, and then you need to taper back. And you need to kind of regroup and decide if you need less carbs or do you need more water and sodium. You just got to pull on those levers and get it right. So that's what we practice this for. So hopefully you've done this in practice, you're getting more confident. And then you go onto the run and you switch to a different solution of carbohydrates. We all need less carbs on the run. We probably need less water unless we're doing a lot of walking. And we might need the same amount of sodium, might need more, because usually that's when it's getting warmer. That's when we're sweating more profusely. So again, this is just a baseline, just a starting point. So hopefully that gives you the clarity that you need. I wish it was simpler, but I don't see any way of making this simpler. So reach out to me and we can go through your personal situation and your personal race plan one-on-one, and we can make sure that you're comfortable with what you're going to do on race day. In no way, shape, or form do I want someone to have too much carbs or not enough or misinterpret something here. So I'll work with you one-on-one as needed. Just please reach out if you're confused at all. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye-bye.